everybody. Welcome to the MapCon podcast. That's Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference for anyone who is not familiar. I'm your host, Super Joe Pardo, and I am super honored, super honored to have the opportunity to have a great guest on, a great Hall of Fame podcaster on for the first time in the MapCon podcast the MapCon podcast. I was going to say the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference podcast history, having the Hall of Famer and CEO of Raw Voice / Blubrry. I always feel like I'm getting it wrong.
You just say Blubrry Podcasting. That's the
Blubrry
way to go.
Podcasting, because not everyone knows what Raw Voice is.
That's true.
But maybe we can get into that a little bit. Everybody, put your hands together wherever you are right now. I hope you're sitting in a bus, on a plane, wherever you are, so everyone can look at you and be like, woo, what is going on over there? Put your hands together for the great Todd Cochrane.
Well, Jill, thanks for having me on the show here. Glad to be on. And we're in the new unbuilt studio, so there's nothing behind me but a white wall. So
I we were talking about this before. I can I resonate with that because I'm in a garage and you can tell I'm in a garage because look at the floor. There's blood all over the floor. That's how it is when you're in a garage because you're trying to get away from your 3-year-old who won't let you be. So Todd, why don't anybody who doesn't know who you are, which would be kind of surprising if you're in the podcasting space, why don't you give a little background about yourself?
Well, like Jill said, my name's Todd Cochrane. I'm the CEO of Raw Voice / Blubrry Podcasting. Been a podcaster since, hold on to your hat, October of 2004. So I'm fast approaching truly 15 years in the podcasting space, which is wow, and I do 2 shows. The mainstay of my basic existence is Geek News Central. It's a twice weekly tech show. Had a sponsor with that show since June of 2005. That's GoDaddy. And if there was basically a world's record for the longest podcast sponsor, they would have it. And I also do the new media show that I co-host with Mr. Rob Greenlee. And soon a brand new show coming from Blubrry. We do a podcast called Your Podcast over there bi-weekly. But we're changing up. There's going to be a new announcement soon. And I'm excited to get that project off the ground. But yeah, I've been podcasting for a long time, working in the space, and I'm now. I lived 22 years in Hawaii, and on June 1st, I relocated to Michigan. And some people say, "Why Michigan?" Well, I didn't want to live in Ohio, Joe.
And I mean, I don't want to say I don't blame you, but
my office is in Columbus. Our team is there, so I'm spending every other week in Columbus. So it's exciting. But I have a 20-foot container with my worldly possessions that arrive here on Saturday, and I have to unload it and then be in Columbus Monday morning. So this area is going to be a wreck. It's going to be full of boxes.
At least you won't be there for it.
Well, it's going to stay here and be unpacked. It's going to wait till I get back.
It's so nice. It's so considerate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Todd, so I'm super honored to be able to say that Blubrry has been such a great partner for MapCon for going on 5 years now. It which still blows my mind that this thing that started in a school gymnasium is still going on to this day. But super honored to have such great partners in you guys. And I got to ask, is the change going to include Mackenzie? Can you confirm nor deny that change that you were talking about?
On the show, Mackenzie will be a guest. I'll be hosting the show, and she'll be coming in as a guest. And we're revamping the complete thing. I'll just say that it'll probably be an hour weekly, and obviously interviews with podcasters. And really, what I'm really trying to do with this new spin is give everyone a little taste of what's going on in the space. A little, be a little bit of salesy throughout, but also at the same time, really get the in-depth stories on why podcasters are podcasting. What their genesis story is. Why do they do what they do, and what are they getting out of it, and what are their audiences getting out of their content?
I love that. I think that there's so many great stories, so many ways that people connect to podcasting. It's not just a bunch of geeks, sitting in a basement talking about whatever the topic that geeks would talk about. But it's giving the power to so many people from so many different backgrounds, so many different places around the world, that I personally am honored to know a lot of those people that are making an impact in their backyard. One of those people commented below, Eric Hunley of the Unstructured Podcast. Shout out to Eric. He's a great guy. He's looking forward to meeting both of us in person. Apparently, I am looking forward to meeting him in person as well. We talk almost daily, and that's one of the powers of podcasting, is people bringing connecting. So I absolutely love that. So how far of a drive is it from where you're at now to Columbus?
Well, this is a funny story. I tell people it's 3 hours and 20 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to drive 3 hours and 20 minutes.
That's it? I thought, oh wow.
No, it's not more. Far, but in Hawaii, I was spending 3 hours a day in my car, taking my kid to school and picking him up. So if I'm doing that twice a month down and back, who cares? Matter of fact, since I've gotten back, I'm trying to, Joe, I don't know what to do with myself. I have 3 extra hours a day, and I'm like, I can relax. It's amazing.
Relaxing's a hell of a drug, sir.
it's a new experience for me. It's and of course then I'm a workaholic, so I spend it working. So I'm back in the gym, so I'm taking an hour and a half of that away from in the gym. So
I love that health has got to come first, because nothing else is going to matter if you ain't around for it.
That's right. You stroke out, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I gotta get my butt back out running again. I feel the need. I feel I gotta feed the beast. To say. So for anyone who doesn't know, give a little background about how Blubrry Raw Voice got started.
Yeah, so there's a whole story to that. And when I started my show in October 2004, I did it while I was on travel. I was, had been injured that summer very badly. I was in the Navy, was not able to fly anymore. I was a back-end operator in P3s, so I had to find something to do, and I did contract support, basically watching airplanes being built in Waco, Texas. So I came home in late October of 2004, and I told my wife I was doing this podcast, and she just kind of looked at me like, "What is that? What is this?" And then she held up 2 fingers. She says, "You got 2 years. You got 2 years to figure out how to make money on this thing." And I'm like, "Okay." You know how that goes, right? You could kind of push the deadline down, but she was pretty serious, because I'd had some harebrained schemes I'd done over the years, and money pits. And so I got lucky in October, maybe November of 2004. I got contacted by this small book publishing company called Wiley Publishing. They asked me to write the first book on podcasting. There's a whole crazy story about that, and how I replied to that email, kind of like, "You've got to be kidding me," and "No, we're not. Check us out." Let's see. So they were the ones that did the dummy books and stuff like that. So anyway, got under contract to write a book. Was building networks. We built the Tech Podcast Network in January of 2004. The book came out in June of 2005. Matter of fact, when the podcasting space was such at the time that if you were taking money, you were evil. And when I announced my book deal on episode 69 of my show, I lost half my audience, because people said I sold out, because I took money to write a book. How dare you, right? So June of 2005, the book came out, did very, very well, sold about 45 or 50,000 copies. It was the number 1 tech book of the year, won several awards, something from New York Times, stuff from Amazon. And then I got this email from this gal named Chris Redlinger from GoDaddy. She said, "We want to sponsor your show." And I'd actually had some disparaging things to say about GoDaddy a few months before, because I'd had some issues with my hosting account. And I said, "Why don't you go read this blog post first before you decide if you want to sponsor the show?" And she did. And she says, "Yeah, we still want to sponsor your show." And I did the show for a ridiculously low amount. At the time, I thought I had like 45,000 listeners, but basically there was no measurement system. So it probably was more like 20, maybe 15, who knows. But but we did really well on that ad deal. And in July, she called me back and wanted to sign another year contract. And we renegotiated the price for the advertising deal. And just before we're hanging up off the phone, she said, do you know any other podcasters that would like to have GoDaddy as a sponsor? And the old ding, the light bulb went on. I said, yes, I do. And immediately I knew there was a business there. So on my podcast, I basically said, I need a lawyer. I need a graphics developer. I need a programmer, and I need an MBA. I was an aircraft. I worked on airplanes. Came from a family of entrepreneurs, but I really knew nothing about truly starting a business. And so we're having a phone call in 9 days. And from that phone call, we found 3 people. And then another additional person came on board and makes up, 4 of those. 3 of the 5 were part of that original team. And so we launched Raw Voice over the phone, never met each other, worked for 6 months on the platform before we even met together. And long story short, though, we were profitable almost from day one because I had ad deals ready to rock and roll. And we started the company and we built the stats platform. And then from there, we just continued to build the services out. We were mostly doing advertising in the early days. We didn't do any service business until later on when we built the PowerPress plugin, largely because the plugin that was very popular at the time wasn't being maintained. The developer had quit doing revs to it, and it was buggy. And so we did a plugin, and then from that, we tied the services in. And as advertising dollars dropped out of the smaller shows and we're going to the big shows, our service business kept us going, and that's where we are today. So, we're unique, I think, in this space and how we present our hosting packages. We truly believe in podcasters owning their brand, owning their IP, controlling their feed, and we have a lot of, some of our competitors have fun with that. It's okay. And but
you have fun with it too.
Yeah.
No.
But it's true though, and the thing is, I'm vindicated time after time when things happen. But it's it's just it's a philosophy. It's a different philosophy, and it's because the entire team is podcasters. That's what's different. And every one of my team podcasts, everybody. So very few companies can say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I personally use the software for my podcast going on 5 years strong. Thanks to Al Kessel, who's my Mr. Voice at the end of every episode, recommending it right out of the gate. Like, oh, you just get this and plug it into your WordPress site. And I was like, oh, okay, I know how to do all that. Like, cool, let's make it work. I absolutely love the stance that you guys take. I use the stats, and I love the fact that you guys enable people to own their brand and not, look, things
I
could be
not renting the transmitter.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like things could always be easier. Like the way I host my stuff is only possible because of PowerPress. Like if you guys stop doing that, then I have to go. Well, first off, I had to go actually find like a real host because I personally host my files from my web server, which, knock on wood, 5 years real strong, hasn't been a problem. But it's not that, people ask like, oh, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, it's not the most simplest like thing. You kind of got to know what you're doing. There's easier ways of doing it. Paying for hosting is one of them, and it, and in my opinion, having it baked right into your WordPress site is a lot better than trying to like, okay, so now you click here and click here. Okay, get this big old code and then put in, but don't put it in as text, put it or as a visual, make sure you click on text, put that code in there. Like all that stuff just isn't great. Like for people who don't know what they're talking about.
Here's the secret though. I could pull the plug on every server today and you're still up. Your PowerPress continues to work without me.
As long as WordPress doesn't update going, at some point they'll drift. But yeah.
The plugin is open source, so someone could pick up the code and continue to work with it. They could fork it. So, that yeah. So it's it's pretty fail safe. We're not going anywhere. But that's
but I have the ability to own it, and I think that's also something along the lines of like the difference between like saying like, okay, I'm a YouTuber versus I'm a content creator. Like I see myself as an artist, as a content creator, entrepreneur. I don't see myself. I mean, podcaster is one of them, but like, a lot of people would be say I'm a YouTuber. It's like, well, if YouTube went away tomorrow, or I'm a Instagram influencer. Great. Well, what if Instagram goes away tomorrow? Like,
right. But the
it probably
times,
won't, but you never know.
We fully understand too. Times have shifted, so we understand that creators' desires and how they want to build stuff and how they want to present their shows are changing. So we've had to adapt. So we've got the ability now for people to, they can come into the Blubrry platform and publish internally. They don't have to have their own website. They can also get a free WordPress site from us. I don't want to do a pitch here, but at the same time, we also understand that, hey, some folks have done some innovative stuff recently, and it made all of us that have been kind of in this lane understand, hey, we need to do some step ups. We need to add some different features, bring on an app, all this stuff that is important these days to these younger creators. So we're in the process of working on that. And also, our UI UX, it's getting long in the tooth. It's, we built this thing for everybody and, made it super powerful. We've got the networks that are running 700 shows on a PowerPress install. And
wow.
yeah, it's crazy.
That is, see, now that to me is, I don't want to say dangerous, but like, because WordPress can be a finicky thing. Like, it's gotten better over the last many years now.
We get no calls on WordPress. None.
Really?
We get maybe 1 or 2 feed issues a week from thousands of customers. It's there's a lot of misinformation out there. WordPress is, if you're running on a $1.99 shared hosting account with no support and you're not updating your site and updating your plugins, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, definitely.
If you do some basic stuff, it's fine. But again, we didn't. There's a group of people that will do that, and there's a group of people that won't, and we were catering to both. But I think the podcasting space is changing. We're aware of that. I look back at history. I made a post the other day on Facebook that a bunch of people picked up on, even a Podcast Business Journal, talking about where we've come from and where we are. And even the comment I made today was 5 years ago, if someone was baking advertising in front or behind a show on an aggregator site, on a syndicator site, people would have, there would have been a war. The company there would have been revolt. Today, some of the things that some of the new syndicators are doing, people are like, oh, that's cool. I'm on the
I've seen some of those posts about Spotify, and they're like, it's just gravy to me. But that's because you're tapping into their audience.
Yeah, it's okay. And we understand that, but it shows you how the space has changed. In the early days, just remember, in the early days, there was no way to get out. There was no, in 2004, 2005, there was no iPhone, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. You had your website, and the only way you could get syndication is asking someone permission to carry your content. And, that's why part of our philosophy was formed in the beginning, was that we didn't want anyone to have control, because it was all about control. People wanted to control your content, and you'd had to pay them to make a deal and get this distribution. Podcasting completely opened up there. There was no gatekeepers. So for me, at geeknewscentral.com, when I built my show, that was my brand. That was my show. I was able to get distribution where I wanted it. I didn't have to ask permission to be syndicated. I didn't have to pay someone. So everyone just accepts that as normal today. They don't even know that back in the beginning, and I don't want to sound like an old crow, but
I think it's just a little late for that, Todd.
No, but let's be, it really, that's where the philosophy formed, is we didn't want anybody controlling our stack, because there was too many gatekeepers. And we saw too many instances where podcasters put their faith in a platform and the platform went away. Now, we haven't seen any huge failures in a couple of years, but we've seen several businesses change their business plan, change their priorities, and some podcasters have got left on the street. So as long as you have your own .com, and to be honest with you, host your media wherever you want. That's the small secret. Host your media wherever you want. That's elementary. But control your brand, control your feed, control your IP, and you still get the same distribution.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it does come to brand power, and I think that a lot of people don't really connect that with, like, I'm doing a show. Like,
Yeah.
it's all about the brand and getting, because you could get syndicated, anywhere, right? Like,
Now
it could
anyway,
lead to anything.
yeah.
I mean, there's networks popping up all over the place. I mean, I was told I need to start a MapCon network for podcasters just a week or
Yeah.
two ago, and I get it. It's got to be what you're about, but there's lots and lots of ways to get that exposure.
And what we find is that podcasters graduate into our service. We get
Mm.
daily people say, "Oh man, I should have listened to you in the beginning. I built this show, thought it was going to be an experiment." But the beauty is they can come in later and do these extra steps and put up a website, and they don't have to do it in the beginning. And we fully understand that a lot of people figure this out maybe 30, 90, 120 days down the road. We are experts at migrating people from almost any platform because they get on a vertical and that's where their show is, and they're fighting for traffic amongst 5,000 other shows, and then they go and do a page speed report on their site on the vertical they're on, and they find out that it's ranking F in page speed, and they're getting hammered on Google search results not being found because the vertical they're on is not optimized. And it's just one of many, 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 many examples. Most podcasters don't have a clue or pay attention to it, but over time they do. And so, some will, some won't. And the best thing is there's no rules. There's no rules, Joe. You can do whatever way you want.
You know what? I have been. I mean, I'm sure I'm a big proponent of no rules thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the beauties of this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
There is no daddy, YouTube
Yep.
daddy telling you what you can and
That's
can't
right.
do.
It's freedom. We're free.
We are free to do what we want. We're free. How's that song go? We're free to do what we want any old time. Speaking of free though, IAB, Eric would love to hear about that and why they matter. And I think a lot of people, because a lot of people might not necessarily know all the ins and outs about why it matters, and have many of your like, I know you guys are. Blubrry is IAB certified. That's the word. I was going to say compatible. I don't know why. IAB certified, but is many of your competitors IAB certified yet?
There's a number that are in the process. Libsyn's in work, Podtrac's in work. I think that they're running again. I think Podtrac's running against some challenges. I'm not at liberty to say why. I think
you don't have to get into the specifics.
Yeah, I think Libsyn is going to come out of the gate no problem. Boxnest or Spreaker already is. NPR is. There's a few others. I think a couple maybe Art19 is. But what it really boils down to, and again, it goes back to history. The media buyers have been saying for a long, long time, even though we've known the numbers have been very good, at least from some of us, that they didn't trust the numbers. And there was this wild, wild west, and the numbers varied from host to host and from platform to platform. It's true. And there are some known players out there it's no secret. They count horribly. They count 6, 12, 18, 24. Oh man, let me.
Yeah, I just had the same problem happen on mine, and you know what? Whenever that happens on my Mac, it lights up whatever YouTube video I had paused.
Yeah.
So people that were listening back to this just heard like PewDiePie talking in the background for a little bit.
Put the phone on mute or put it on airplane mode. But Eric was asking in chat, how about Podbean? They're not in the process. They aren't running certification. They're going to be in trouble soon because media buyers are very closely looking at this. Matter of fact, my chief growth officer in New York went and talked to a very prominent advertising firm today, and we spent an hour briefing them on why the certification process is important. But let's back up a little bit. So about 4 years ago, the IAB said, hey, we're going to help put some standards together. And we joined the IAB at considerable expense. It's a check I have to write every year.
Who is in charge of that? Like, who's the Is it just
IB
like
has an audio group, and there's a chairman of
okay?
the audio group, and 26 companies basically battled it out to come up with the standards. Now, here's the small little secret. In 2008, Libsyn, Podtrack, and Blubrry came up with this first document that was produced by the ADM, the Association for Downloadable Media, which is no longer in existence. That document formed the basis of the IEB document today. There's many pieces in there that were direct cut paste, and then wording was fought over many, many months. Went through version 1, version 2. We got to a point where we felt that the spec was something that we could support. And matter of fact, Angelo, my CIO, the guy's got gray hair because of those meetings and loss of hair. But why is it important? It puts everyone on the same playing field. So when a company gets certified, the delta in the numbers from one company to the other should be very minor. Very, very minor, because the process is how the rule following is the same. Now, there's going to be a little additional stuff like how good their fraud is, how good their blacklist is, how good their whitelist. So there's going to be a little bit of deltas, but I don't think too much. So what this ultimately does is media buyers are going to be able to say, Todd, here's an insertion order. Podtrack, here's an insertion order. Libsyn, here's an insertion order. We go out and sell that to our podcasters. They get an ad deal. And then all I have to do then is I have to perform on the campaign. If Libsyn's podcasters perform better or Podtracks do, they're going to get more money. But we're all on the same playing field from a billing standpoint. The certification process is as close to a forensic audit as you're going to get, line by line of every piece of code in our audio, basically, and how we measure went through by a team. 40 hours of me watching code review. That blew. And then huge numbers of questions. And in the end, the certification. But it was not easy. And any company that's going through it, it's a time suck. It's unbelievable and very, very expensive.
But you obviously, I mean, I would imagine the answer is yes. You feel it's worth it, right?
Absolutely.
Now, do you feel that
my money where my mouth was?
But do you feel that enough podcasters know about it to know the difference? Like, is the marketing behind it powerful enough?
Well, the problem with and I've been public with the IEB saying that I wish they would not allow companies that have not went through the process to say you're compliant, because what they have is a compliance program. So I am IEB podcast measurement version 2 guideline certified to be in compliance with those standards.
And they could just say that they're IAB compliant. It's okay.
And so you leave the little word certification out, and it sounds like, oh, they're all good. Well,
that's like the FDA thing, where it's like FDA approved versus FDA not going to kill you,
right?
Or it's based on something else. Like John Oliver just did a whole thing about that.
But now, look at Podtrack. They're taking their haircut. They're taking a 20 to 36% hit on their download numbers because they went through the process, and the IEB auditors said, oh, what's this? And they've had to make the adjustment. I'm assuming that's my hypothesis. And now what's happening is they've been saying they're compliant for the last 2 years, but their numbers were wrong. Our numbers shifted a little, but it was mostly the folks that were on redirect, not hosted log files. And, I've been publicly talking about this, is that if you are a redirect customer at Blubrry, your numbers are going to be lower than what a hosted customer will be, because I have to unqualify some downloads that may become qualified if I had the hosted log files. So those that host with us have the most accurate certified data. Those that are on the redirect, their data is still
like me.
I'm on redirect, but you could be 10% lower than maybe what your download numbers would be if you were hosting with us. So that's
a pretty significant number, though. Once you start getting into like the hundreds of thousands, millions, like that, that's a pretty significant difference.
There's the log files have the data that you need to fully qualify. In a redirect, I'm missing some pieces on some downloads, so I can't qualify the download.
So before we get into the next question, which I have here, we should probably talk about MapCon a little bit, as we're already halfway through our podcast interview with Todd Cochrane of Blubrry Podcasting. So Todd, you are coming out to your first ever MapCon, which I am super excited to finally have you coming out to South Jersey. This time, Alexa, you picked the best location.
Right.
That's for darn sure.
So as I said, when we got this, I'm going to figure out how to fire hose 45 minutes worth of content into 23 minutes. So people better have their notepads ready.
Yes. And if they don't, then if they should be buying a virtual ticket, which if they buy the plus ticket for the conference, you get that included. So you get that $100 value baked in to your ticket, as well as a t-shirt. That's another reason why you should buy your plus ticket. But one of the other great things, Todd, and you might not know this as you haven't been to a MapCon yet, we offer free headshots for every single person that comes out to MapCon. It's one of the things. Our Jeanette Pellegrini is our photographer. She's been our photographer for 5 years. She drives down from, you talk about a 3-hour drive. She drives down from Long Island to be here. She's a great friend of mine, and I'm super honored to have her here and take the professional headshots and all the event photos year after year after year. And if you don't have a headshot, you really need one, because having one that isn't done very well, like going like this and saying I got me a headshot is sending the wrong message to most audiences. Not all audiences, but most audiences, I would think, would be like, hey, like, why not get something that looks at least somewhat professional?
I think the last headshot I got was 2 years ago, and I paid $90 at an event for it. So
really.
Yeah, and matter of fact, my team says you need to update your headshot, so I know where I'm going to get one for free now.
There you go. You're gonna get one baked right into your conference ticket. And if you have your team, and you're bringing your team to MapCon, your podcast crew, it's a great opportunity to get some professional headshots together. And yeah, it's so that's one of the things we include food on Saturday. We have a lunch. And if you feel so inclined, like you're podcasting and you want to take it to the next level, on Friday morning from 9 to 12, me and Samantha Riley, coming all the way out of Australia, Sydney, Australia specifically, it will be hosting the Elevate Your Podcast course, where we'll be going through all the different pieces to help build your podcast into a business. Between the two of us, we have, I think, about 10, 12 years of podcasting experience and a lifetime of business experience between both of us together. And last year went really, really well. We had like 8 people show up for that, pay for the premium ticket and show up. They were asking questions well after I was able to continue to answer said questions, because I had to go start the conference. So the other thing you get, not just the 3 hours, but you also get lunch. It's a private lunch with the other people, so you don't have to run out and go get lunch, which this year, because we're at the Ocean Resort Casino, which is an incredible location. If you haven't checked it out, you should totally do it. It's right on the beach. In Atlantic City. There's so many things. There's a Wahlburgers in it. In fact, they're having their grand opening, I think, in like a month or so. I think they've been open for a little while, but Mark Wahlberg's going to be in the house, so why not do the grand opening then, right?
I've been to their restaurant in Vegas. It's pretty good. So
is it? I have yet to have one.
It's good.
I'm looking forward to it. I am definitely looking forward to it. So you won't have to worry about that, though, because we're going to have lunch, and then the conference starts at 1 o'clock, September 6th in Atlantic City, and then runs till about 6 o'clock at night, and then all day Saturday from 8 to 6, all day Saturday, September 7th. So if you come, bring the family, come early, stay late, whatever you want to do. It's going to be an incredible time. Every year we have an absolute blast. You're in one room. That's another thing, Todd. I'm not sure if you realize this. We're in one room the whole time. So like everybody's getting the inside jokes. Everybody's getting to, you get to rub elbows with Todd Cochrane. Like how cool is that, right? I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you get the opportunity to become friends with people that you wouldn't, like you go to other conferences, you would see Todd accepting a Hall of Fame trophy up on stage, or Dave Jackson accepting a Hall of Fame trophy up on stage, and you'd be like, well, when am I going to get to meet Dave? And when am I going to get to meet Todd? Like, where's that? Where's that on the map? I can go to his talk, but that's about it. And in this case, everyone's in the same room. Everyone's mixing it up. So it's going to be a blast. You definitely don't want to miss it. And if you want to be there, which you absolutely should want to be there, you can get 15% off by going to middlelandpodcast.com/register right below this video chat thing, whatever we call this nowadays, and use promo code MAPCON5 to get 15% off your plus or premium ticket, which significantly slashes the price off. I try to keep the, Todd, I try to keep the prices as low as I can every year after year after year. I know that, around 50% of the people that come to our conference aren't doing this as their full-time job. They might want to, but it's a hobby, and they want to they want to be able to connect with other podcasters. So it's one of those opportunities where you can get to go and do it. And we try to make it as affordable as we can. Like I said, we include lunch one of the days. The only downside is now we're in Atlantic City, so travel is a little bit further than when we were in Philly, or just outside of Philly in good old South Jersey, and it's a little bit more expensive on the rooms, but it kind of comes with the territory. You guys want nice things. I want to give you nice things. Nice things aren't always the cheapest, but if you stay for a number of days from like Thursday to Sunday, it kind of evens out around like $200 a night or so. It's just that that Saturday night. It's like
Saturday night, yeah.
It's like $299 for the one night. So I know it's a lot, but if you're staying there for more than just like one night, it makes it kind of evens out, because the other nights are about $100, $110, $120.
Well, let me throw a gold nugget out there. So. Yeah. At every conference I go to, in the evening after everything's over, some of us will go find a bar, and usually we'll find a bar in the hotel. And I like to
there's some great bars there.
I'll say, well, we're going to hold court, and it's really not court. We're just going to hang out and chit chat and talk. I'll bring the expense account with me. Okay, so
man,
we have some drinks on me, and we can sit and talk podcasting until the wee hours of the morning. The latest I've ever went was 3:30. I hope we don't go to 3:30.
It's Atlantic City. We can go 24/7. I think their bars open until whenever. They have the largest sport book there. So
we're gonna walk into the sessions next day and be in zombies. So we won't need a few hours sleep, but we'll have fun.
Drinks are on Todd. That you heard it here. Greatly appreciated. So getting back to the conversation, Eric Hunley had a question he wanted to hear about the podcast awards, and especially he's concerned about the No Hall of Fame this year, which I don't think I caught up on that one.
Yeah. So just so everybody's clear, the podcast awards, podcastawards.com, is my event. It's something that I came up with in 2004 or 5, whatever.
I'm a 2017 winner right here.
There you go. So it's called the People's Choice Podcast Awards. You have to register. Nominations open on July 1st. Just go over to the Podcast Awards website. And
I thought they opened already.
Nope. The nominations, you have to register now. Then
you have to register now. Nominations are okay.
Yeah, July 1st. And the nominations are open for 30 days. That's where you tell your audience, come in and vote for me. Or nominate me, because the voting is done differently. So we have about 1,000 podcasters that vote. But the Podcast Hall of Fame, I have significant concerns, and I'm very disappointed. And this is a sign of the space. And I think we as independent podcasters need to start asking companies why they're not stepping up. And what had happened was the podcast movement team, they have to have a budget. They have to have a sponsor to put that event on. Even me, my little event, typically $7,000 to $10,000, and I'd have no live event. I have trophies. We have server fees. I have a audit team. So in the end, $7,000 to $10,000 to cover the event, and I do an online award show. So think about what Dan and Jared are doing at Podcast Movement. They're putting on a full blown award show. They have people fly them in. It's a whole deal. It's a big deal, and they were not able to find a mainline sponsor for it. So yet you have companies like iHeart and others who are claiming to have their quote unquote, the first ever podcast awards, and they're giving awards to their group, to the insider group, and yet Dan and Jared couldn't find a sponsor for their Podcast Hall of Fame. And that's no different than my podcast awards. Who are the sponsors for the People's Choice Podcast Awards? Podcasters. We very rarely get a corporate sponsor. My corporate sponsorship's just $3,000. It's nothing. I'm not crying. It is what it is. It's been that way for years. People seem to think that because Todd is the CEO of Blubrry, that Blubrry should be paying for it. But Blubrry doesn't run it. I own it. It's a separate function from Blubrry. And so Dan and Jared and the Podcast Hall of Fame thing, I'm very disappointed we weren't able to. So maybe next year, I'm going to suggest to Dan, maybe we need to crowdsource the Hall of Fame. And, if companies won't step up, and it was a big check, if companies won't stand up and write,
I'm sure it is. They put on an incredible display. I think the past Money Rainmaker or something was like the past.
I'm not
sponsor
sure.
or something probably,
like that. I would expect that sponsorship's $25,000-$30,000 to do that. So if we can maybe next year, they put on a big event.
It is a big event, and it is everything. I think people don't understand that about hosting things at hotels is not cheap. Food is, it's like, oh, I just want to put on like a little lunch thing. It's like $40 a person, and it's like I could get dinner for that much,
right.
We can all take everybody to a restaurant.
Why do you think I do the award show from my studio? Because it's too expensive, and so maybe it's time for us to crowdsource the Hall of Fame. I'm just, because it basically 4 or 5 people we're going to miss a year. We're not going to be able to induct 4 or 5 people that are deserving.
So they're not able to at least induct the people for cost of the trophies or something and not put on a giant event like a big. Dan, okay, no, I mean, I guess I'm asking a rhetorical question.
It's not my answer. So
that is a shame, though. That
really I can't step in. It would be a total jerk move. So I'm not going to do that.
For you to step in
and do it. It's and it's same type of politics would happen. So it's it's totally off the table for me to do it. So.
What you talking about for Blubrry to sponsor it, or for you to just you personally
are the podcast awards? But it's
harder, Right. No, that's a fair point. Eric says, is it time for a WC3 for podcasting something central? What is a WC3? I'm not familiar.
I'm not sure what I think he's talking about. Maybe a trade organization.
Maybe that kind of sounds it.
Rob Greenlee and I and Rob Walsh, and we've all talked about this trade organization for a while. And again, it's hard because what we found when we did the ADM, people bring their agendas, and you have to have a third party.
Okay, that's what I thought he was talking about. WC3, like HTML standard kind of.
Well, I think we have a standard as far as RSS goes, so maybe I'm not following. But I guess maybe to finish my thought is I think it's time for a trade organization, but we need a trusted, non-agendized party to run it, because you got to have someone that doesn't, I can't form the trade organization. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, right. No, that's a fair point. I didn't realize that. I guess I was out of the loop that the Hall of Fame wasn't happening this year. That's really a shame.
Well, I tell you, have a central body do the awards. I have been offered to sell the podcast. Matter of fact, I sold it once and they defaulted.
But wait, hold on. You got to explain that story.
Well, I wanted out because Todd was the bad guy for running the awards, and so I sold it to the trade show that went out of business. They defaulted in their final payments, and I had retained the domain name until payments were done in full. And it's lucky that I did, or the podcast awards would be no more. But I've had some other people that have come in and wanted to run it, but they have, again, I feel that I'm trying to run it as fair and as impartial as possible. And I don't want to turn it over to someone that is going to commercialize and manipulate and use it as a vehicle to promote shows that maybe it's a whole different process. So I'm trying to have a good heart here and have be a good steward to the community.
And it sucks too, because you probably do get the finger pointed at you.
And a couple of years ago, we had a little issue going on with some folks that were, I won't say, I thought they were cheating, but they were manipulating. And I said some stuff I probably shouldn't have. It caused some bad blood, but I've never been one to not speak my mind, for better or worse.
Well, I gotta say, like, from an outsider's point of view, I loved that. In 2017, I won for best business category, but what I loved about that was the fact that I didn't have to spam my audience to get them to vote every single day. And every time I see people are like, hey, can you do this for me? I need you to vote. I'm just like, I'll vote for you, but if you don't keep popping up my feed,
right.
You're asking for 30 days for me to keep remembering to do this.
We got rid of that.
It's unreasonable.
Yeah, it was.
But even on your end, was it a pain to coordinate? I think you had something like 200 podcast reviewers or something like that.
Well, we learned that 200 wasn't enough, because 200 said that they would, and only 100 did, and then we had to go back. And so now, this year, I think we've set it up so I'll have 2,000 randomly picked folks that'll be able to vote, either 1,000 or 2,000. I'll have to look at my own rules, but we upped the number because we know it. And I was telling everybody, you got to vote for all the shows. And we were looking at the voting, and the person that was voting would only vote for 3 or 4 shows. And we thought, no, this isn't a big enough. We're not getting a big enough sampling. So we've upped the number, I think 2,000 or whatever the number we picked this year's. And then I have 100 people that I invite personally, people like you and other folks that say, hey, come on and vote. And then it's worked out. I feel the process is pretty fair, but there's no perfect awards thing. I could change the rules completely and still get hate mail.
Yeah, look, I liked it because I didn't have to, because I hate when people spam those kinds of things, and I so I hate doing it to other people. So with me, I was like, oh sweet, I'm all for this, because I don't want to
right.
I don't want to have to put my
have to nominate yourself. Nominate me once, make the slate, and then let the 1,000 or 2,000 listeners go through and vote.
Figure it out. Yeah, let them figure it out. Now, I think that's incredible that you can get that many people. Not obviously not everyone's going to do it and all that. So you might end up with 750 or 1,200 or something.
Well, I'm emailing them every week. Get in there, get in there, get in there, get in there, get in there. And I'm talking with my tech guy. I'm like, how many have went in? And because we don't close it, we let them get out. They can come back 3 or 4 days later and finish out.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear. That is a lot of work. I can imagine that is a lot. Now, before I get to this question from Raphael, do you have any interest in hosting a live event? Because that was something that I know that's a tiny violin there.
No, it's money. We do the awards live, but I would love to have a venue. But you think, okay, now if I have to get 22 podcasters in place. Now, first of all, for years, we had podcasters that won that never even said thank you. That would they wouldn't submit it. So we basically said, now, we make all 220 nominees send a video.
Yep.
Acceptance video. We don't tell them who won. And we've had 2 or 3 that won that did not send the acceptance speech, and we went to number 2 because that's the rules. You don't submit your acceptance speech, and even if you won, you lose
because you didn't do it.
You want to participate, and you have.
I hope I didn't come in second place.
We're not going to say who, but if you.
I know.
If you've had all these people take the time to nominate you, and then people voted for you, and then you don't have the appreciation to send me a 2-minute video.
Thank you, Todd, for this award. It's such an honor.
That's all.
I want to thank God and my audience. Thanks. Come on, man. Everybody's got one in their pocket.
Right.
It
takes
$1,000 computer in their pocket, and they can't be bothered to whip it out.
I gotta get 220 people butts in the seats in the same place. Impossible. Even if I pick the middle of the country, 220 podcasters are not coming, and I'm going to, show so-and-so one and have the dude stand up and walk up the red carpet. It's logistically because we're not all in Hollywood.
Well, that you know what, that's a good point though. But I will say, when I won, like, I don't know if you ever saw the video of me winning. I cried. Like, it meant like a lot to me.
You were at MapCon and you did something.
No, that was the acceptance speech. There was a video. I'll have to send it to you. Because I was vlogging a lot at that point. So one of the it was my birthday night. I think we were celebrating my birthday, and then afterwards, like, the awards ceremony went on, and I'm like surrounded by my mom and my stepdad and my wife and my daughter, and like, it was cool, like, to sit down, like, after everybody left, like, all his family left, and now we're sitting down watching whether or not I'm going to win. And like, I'm thinking, like, nah, there's no freaking way.
And now we have enough money to pay for trophies. There were some years I didn't have enough funds to pay for the $4,000 or $5,000 in trophies.
And they look awesome. And that's, I mean, I had one. I sent one to my Mr. Voice. Yeah. I mean, it if nothing else, it just, like, it's a thing.
It is.
And it meant so much to me. I'm like, I'm going to get the bigger one because I'm going to feel like I got to get the bigger one because it's beautiful. It's awesome. Yeah. I wish I had
anything like that.
Like, right here. Just envision it's right here. But yeah, like, most people wouldn't have anything like that.
They're expensive to make.
I bet they are. So where's my trophy? So my trophy is up in my studio, which I'm not allowed to broadcast from because my daughter will come in and like ruin my focus.
Spent a lot of time promoting the podcast awards. I didn't mean to do that.
No, not at all. I mean, this is part of, this is what I wanted to have you on here for, is to talk about things that you don't get to necessarily talk about on other shows and things of that nature. Now, Raphael, what advice, Todd, do you have? Would you give experienced podcasters that feel audience has plateaued despite great feedback from community?
So the audience has plateaued. In other words, the growth has stopped. That's what I'm assuming here. That's what usually podcasters say. I am a big believer in diversification, in that you can't just do the podcast. I think I listed, I did 2 years of telling this speech where you need to write a book. You need to go out and do keynotes. You need to go out and speak. You need to go to events where your content is. You need to be on TV. You need to be on radio. Do you know how easy it is to get on TV?
Apparently pretty easy if you spend
call your local television station, say, "Hi, I'm hitting 100. I'm on my 100th episode. Would you like to come?" They're always looking for Phil. They're looking for a 2-minute piece.
Yeah, that's you know what? I'm coming up on 400 episodes. I should
absolutely
strap down and do that, and I should probably do it for MapCon too. We're having our 5th anniversary. It's 5. People like numbers.
You get like 30 seconds on the TV, but they come and shoot for 5 to 10, 15 minutes or an hour, and you get 2 minutes or whatever. And you got to be on the radio. You got to you got to find somebody to get in, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do, and it's all about building. You have to build authority in your content space, and you can't do that just with the podcast. And I do it by going to CES and doing events there and meeting the community and creating additional content, different feeds. It's really about diversification. You just can't do the podcast.
No, you can't. I think it's all about the authority. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to, is how are people going to take you seriously when you're trying to do the thing that you're doing. And that's awesome, Raphael. You keep that up. I'm at 382 or something like that. But I've done a bunch of other shows. You're at 500?
1,376.
Wow.
That's on Geek News Central.
Yeah, well, you've also been doing it like 3 times as long.
Right, I've been doing it. Trying to do 100 episodes a year is hard.
You know what? I used to not think that, but then I opened up to my world to a whole bunch of other stuff, and I gotta say, it makes life a lot harder, especially with 2 kids in the tank.
House, yeah.
So, Todd, before we wrap up here, because we only got about 5 minutes left, and Eric's crying about being at 151. Don't worry about being 150. You know what, Eric? There's people that are at episode 5, and they're like, "How will I ever get to 150 episodes?"
Here's the thing about that, and I've said this for years and years and years. You're part of like 10 or 12% because everyone else is gone.
Yep.
To get actually past like up to 150, 200, you're like 12% of the global that have made it. So that's saying something.
Absolutely. I think I one of the things that somebody I was talking to the other day said that they thought that the podcast boon was actually on the downturn because of the fact that so many of them have pod faded that like after 90 days they just disappear.
One company added about 70,000 to the rolls of dead shows. So
one company. Which company was that?
Well, let's put it this way: when you secure a ship, you drop an anchor. About 70,000 shows drop the anchor.
Yeah.
There's about 5,000 shows over there are actually producing anything. Everything else is
gone. History.
And there's failure rates on other. We have our share of failure rates too, but I will say, and I'll brag here, we know that our podcasts are the longest lived in the industry that follow our formula. We know that.
I think because they own the brand, and it's not just about the technical side of it. I think it's about the philosophical side of it. Of this is my brand, and I'm shouldering this, and things are going to get bigger. Yeah, like this is part of my DNA, and like it's like I think that's awesome. I totally agree. So Todd, when one last time before you, because I know you got to get going in a few minutes here. What are you going to be speaking at MapCon that everyone has to make sure their butts are in seats at MapCon 5?
Okay, I'm just thinking I'm going to do something. You've got the ad deal. What now? That's the topic I think I'm going to do. So you've got the ad deal. How do you execute? How do you keep that advertiser for 14 years?
It's a scary thought, man. Because like you're like, well, I got the money, and now I have to deliver on like actually selling the darn thing, and it's like,
how do you keep the advertiser renewing? So, and again, I'll do 45 minutes worth of content in 23 minutes, and you better write fast.
So I guess the first step would be slam them in a review on your blog. So they know that you're serious, because you wouldn't take the time to slam them if
there's an
weren't
answer.
serious.
I slammed them, but I also described what their customer support did to fix it.
Oh, okay. So then that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So to fix yourself with a ticket to MapCon 5, like how I transitioned there, you go down to midatlanticpodcast.com/register. You pop in that promo code MapCon 5, and you will get yourself 15% off your ticket, your plus or premium ticket. I'm really looking forward to it. We have over 40 speakers. I don't even know how we're going to cram all of them in there. I kind of expect, and this is just being open about it, I kind of expect a few people to drop out, which does happen from time to time. And if it does, it will actually help me out a little bit with my scheduling. But we're going to make it happen one way or another. We will crush everything into it. And the other announcement that Todd agreed to be is a podcast judge for the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference Creative Podcast competition workshop, where you get to create a podcast with other podcasters and win awesome Audio Technica gear that's sitting, literally I would pull it out, but it's sitting over there right now in a box, like with a bunch of video gear on it. It's that way. Anyway, we're gonna get out of here, everyone. I want to thank Todd so much for taking the hour to come and be a guest here on the MapCon podcast. Eric says that he can't wait. And I can't wait either. Todd, I'm looking forward to seeing you at MapCon. I still haven't decided if I'm going to Podcast Movement yet. I have a ticket, but I'm not sure I'm going to make it.
Come on down. So anyway,
we'll see. But
I gotta go. But
all right,
Todd at blubrry.com, or reach me at Geek News on Twitter.
Yes, that's how you can reach Todd. Have a great night, Todd.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.